Daniel Chen had purchased the property sight unseen, a desperate gamble fueled by Earth's housing crisis, and an inheritance barely sufficient for a down payment on anything habitable. The listing described it as remote, riverside minimal neighbors, which translated to a prefabricated carbon composite dwelling 3 hours outside New Seattle's sprawl, nestled in what remained of the Pacific Northwest's temperate rainforest. The structure itself was unremarkable, a standard 2040s modular unit with solar shingles and a moisture reclamation system. What the listing hadn't mentioned was the river, a pristine tributary that wound through the property like a silver ribbon, or the fact that minimal neighbors was a spectacular understatement. Daniel discovered this on his third morning, when he decided to explore the waterway that bordered his land. The forest floor was soft with moss and decades of accumulated needles. He followed the sound of running water, pushing through salal bushes until he emerged onto a rocky bank where the river widened into a natural pool. The water was so clear he could see trout navigating the current below, and 3 figures bathing in the shallows. Daniel froze. They weren't human. The first was humanoid in the loosest sense, bipedal, certainly, but with skin that shifted chromatically from deep violet to azure as it moved through the water. Its head was crowned with what appeared to be sensory fronds that floated around its skull like a living halo. The second figure was more compact, covered in geometric scales that caught the sunlight and refracted it into prismatic patterns. It had 4 arms, each ending in delicate, multi-jointed fingers. The third was the most unsettling, a towering form with translucent skin through which Daniel could see the subtle movement of organs and what might have been a cardiovascular system pulsing with bioluminescent fluid. They hadn't noticed him yet. Daniel's mind raced through impossibilities. First contact had occurred in 2031, 14 years ago, when the Confluence, a coalition of 17 species, had announced humanity's existence had been known for centuries. Earth was under observation, quarantined until it achieved certain technological and sociological benchmarks. Direct contact with alien species on Earth was strictly regulated by the United Nations Xenological Affairs Division, which made the scene before him technically illegal for everyone involved. The chromatically skinned one spoke first, its voice musical and unexpectedly gentle. "The human has arrived. Protocol dictates we acknowledge his presence." Daniel's translator implant, mandatory for all citizens after first contact, processed the words with barely perceptible delay. The scale being turned, water cascading off its geometric plating. Already, the predictive models suggested another 48 hours before environmental exploration behavior. "Models are probabilities, not certainties, Kesh," said the translucent one, its voice resonating with multiple harmonics. "We should have accounted for human curiosity variance." Daniel found his voice, though it came out higher than intended. "What? Who are you? What are you doing on my property?" The chromatically skinned one, clearly the de facto leader, inclined its head in what the translator interpreted as respectful acknowledgement. "I am Orla, of the chromatic synthesis. My companions are Kesh of the Lithosian collective and V-Rin of the transparent hierarchy. We apologize for the intrusion. We did not expect you to discover our bathing ritual so quickly." Bathing ritual, Daniel felt his brain struggling to process. "You're aliens on Earth, illegally, bathing in my river." "Technically," Kesh interjected, its 4 arms gesturing in what might have been the equivalent of a shrug, "the river belongs to no one. Water rights law on your planet is fascinatingly complex, but ultimately the river predates your property claim by several million years." "That's not the point," Daniel's voice echoed off the water. "You're not supposed to be here at all. Earth is under quarantine." Orla waded closer to shore, its chromatic skin shifting to calming greens and blues. "We are aware of the protocols, Daniel Chen. May I call you Daniel? We have been monitoring your species designation preferences." "How do you know my name?" Property records are not encrypted to confluence standards, VRIN offered, its translucent form shimmering. We apologize for the invasion of privacy. It was necessary for risk assessment. Daniel sat down heavily on a boulder, his legs suddenly unreliable. I don't understand any of this. Why are you here? How long have you been here? Orla emerged from the water, and Daniel noticed it wore what appeared to be a compression garment that materialized around its form as it stepped onto land, some kind of smart fabric responding to environmental changes. We are researchers, Daniel, xenoecologists studying Earth's recovering biosphere. This river represents a rare example of successful ecosystem restoration after the industrial collapse of the mid-21st century. We've been here for approximately 2 years, your planetary measurement, Kesh added, following Orla ashore. Its scales were already dry, apparently hydrophobic. The previous property owner was less observant. Old Mr. Takahashi, Daniel remembered the lawyer mentioning the estate sale. He knew about you. No, Viren said simply, joining its companions on the bank. He was 97 years old with declining sensory acuity. He rarely ventured this far from the dwelling. Daniel rubbed his face. This is insane. I need to report this to UNXAD. There are protocols. Protocols that would result in our immediate deportation and the termination of 2 years of critical research. Orla interrupted, its skin flashing orange with what the translator suggested was distress. Daniel, we understand your concern, but please allow us to explain what we've discovered. Something in Orla's tone, translated though it was, gave Daniel pause. What could possibly justify breaking quarantine? Kesh activated a holographic display from a device on its forearm. Projected above the river, Daniel saw complex data streams showing water quality metrics, biodiversity indexes, and molecular compositions he didn't fully understand. This river shouldn't exist, Kesh said. According to all predictive models of Earth's industrial recovery, this ecosystem should be decades away from reaching this level of complexity. Something is accelerating the restoration process. Viren pointed a translucent finger at a specific data cluster. We've identified a novel fungal network in the substrate, a previously unknown species with remarkable remediation properties. It's breaking down persistent organic pollutants at rates that violate our understanding of biochemistry. We believe, Orla continued, its skin now displaying colors Daniel's translator couldn't interpret, that Earth is developing unique adaptive mechanisms in response to human environmental impact. This river is not just recovering, it's evolving. Daniel stared at the holographic data, his mind shifting from shock to something approaching wonder. And if you report this through official channels? The site becomes a research zone, Orla said. Cordoned off, studied by teams with equipment that would destroy the delicate balance we've been observing. The fungal network is extremely sensitive to disruption. Heavy machinery, large research installations, they would collapse the very phenomenon we're trying to understand. You're asking me to become complicit in breaking interstellar law. We're asking you to help us understand something that could change how your species approaches planetary restoration, Viren said. The knowledge we're gathering here could be applied to heal damaged ecosystems across Earth. Daniel looked at the 3 aliens standing on the bank of his river, according to human property law at least. They looked ridiculous and magnificent, terrifying and somehow vulnerable. How long, he asked finally, how long until you finish your research? Orla's skin brightened with what might have been hope. 6 months, perhaps 8. We need to document a complete seasonal cycle. And then you'll report your findings through official channels. We will submit our data to both the Confluence and UNXAD simultaneously, Kesh confirmed, with full documentation of our methodology. Daniel stood brushing moss from his pants. His life had just become exponentially more complicated. Okay, ground rules. First, you stay on the river and forest areas. Don't approach the house unless it's an emergency. Second, I want regular updates on your research. If I'm risking UNXAD prosecution, I want to know what for. Third, he paused, a slightly hysterical laugh escaping. You teach me about that fungal network. If this is happening on my property, I want to understand it. Orla's entire body rippled with colors that Daniel's translator interpreted as joy, gratitude, and relief combined. These terms are acceptable. Thank you, Daniel Chen. Your species' capacity for adaptive decision-making continues to exceed our predictions. Yeah, well, Daniel said, starting back toward his house. My species also has a capacity for really poor judgment. I'm hoping this isn't an example of that. As he walked away, he heard Kesh say to the others, I told you direct communication would work. Humans respond well to being treated as intellectual equals. Revision of predictive models noted, Viren responded. Daniel smiled despite himself. He'd bought a house looking for isolation and simplicity. Instead, he'd gotten 3 alien researchers, a evolving river ecosystem, and the very real possibility of becoming humanity's most unlikely xenological liaison. Back at his house, Daniel made coffee and sat on his porch, looking toward the river. Through the trees, he could just make out the shimmer of Viren's translucent form. 6 months. He could keep a secret for 6 months. Probably. He pulled out his tablet and began researching everything he could find about fungal networks and bioremediation. If he was going to be part of an illegal alien research operation, he might as well understand what they were doing. His quiet retirement plan had just become considerably more interesting. End